Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into something that honestly feels like straight up science fiction, but it's rapidly becoming our everyday reality. We are looking at the incredible and, yeah, kind of daunting intersection of the human mind and digital systems. For decades, we've interacted with the digital world through screens, keyboards, a mouse. But you know what? That barrier is dissolving. Today, we're going to explore the future of brain-computer interfaces, the absolutely crucial need for emotional access in digital spaces, and the profound ethical implications of neurotechnology. So get ready, because we are taking a journey right into the architecture of the mind. So, who owns your thoughts? Wow, it's a heavy question, right? For years, the whole internet economy has been built on tracking what we do. Our clicks, our doom scrolling, our purchase history, but we're crossing a massive new frontier. We're moving from tracking our actions to actually tracking our feelings and subconscious reactions. When neurotechnology can literally map our cognitive states, our stress levels, and those unspoken desires, the data they're extracting isn't just about what we like anymore. It's about who we are. Establishing exactly who owns this incredibly intimate data is, without a doubt, the foundational challenge of the next decade. All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, the frontier of cognitive liberty. We're heading deep inside the human mind to look at a concept that's basically going to define human rights in the digital age. Okay, let's unpack this. The rapid advancement of brain-computer interfaces, or BCIs, means systems are getting really good at interpreting our neural signals. And because this tech interacts directly with our subconscious, totally bypassing our verbal filters and conscious choices, defining and protecting what we call neurorights is absolutely essential. We aren't just talking about your standard data privacy anymore. We are talking about mental privacy. It's the fundamental right to ensure your identity stays intact and that your private thoughts cannot be manipulated or harvested without your explicit, 100% informed consent. Now, if you're sitting there thinking neurorights are just some far-off theoretical worry, listen to this. Researchers have already proven that brain spyware can successfully extract highly sensitive personal info directly from a user's EEG signals. Just imagine you're playing a video game or using a medical BCI, and the system covertly flashes specific stimuli on the screen. These are specifically designed to trigger subconscious recognition in your brain, and boom, it captures your PIN number or your birth month. No way, right? But it's true. This is exactly why cognitive liberty is under imminent threat right now. As these technologies hit the commercial market, malicious cyber attacks on our actual neural pathways become a very genuine, very scary risk. And that brings us to Section 2, decoding the subconscious. Because the truth is, we don't even have to wait for implanted chips to see this stuff in action today. Global industries are already actively interfacing with the brain to decode what drives us. Retailers, tech platforms, manufacturers, they aren't just relying on old-school focus groups anymore. They are using eye tracking to see exactly what hooks your attention. They use facial coding software to decode tiny micro-expressions of joy or skepticism. They're even using galvanic skin response, which is basically measuring your sweat gland activity, to gauge your excitement. Some are even strapping portable EEG monitors on people to test their cognitive load and emotional comfort when using new software. They're literally measuring the invisible emotional drivers that we ourselves might not even realize we have. But here is where it gets really wild. Even though human brains share the exact same universal biological mechanisms, the way we subconsciously react is deeply shaped by our culture. Thanks to AI and real-time emotion analytics, researchers can test marketing campaigns globally. And guess what? The exact same stimulus doesn't trigger the same emotional resonance everywhere. In North America, neural pathways light up like crazy for themes of novelty and personal empowerment. In Europe, the subconscious responds much stronger to messaging around ethics, sustainability, and trust. Meanwhile, over in Asia, there is way higher emotional arousal when the focus is on community and harmony. So our culture literally dictates our subconscious digital responses. How fascinating is that? Okay, let's take a collective breath, slow things down a bit, and move into Section 3, the right to rest. With all these systems constantly trying to decode and stimulate our brains, we really have to look at the psychological toll of all this digital saturation. I want you to just let this sink in for a second. Nearly half, 47% of young adults surveyed in a recent UK study explicitly said they would prefer to grow up without the internet. Wow, that is a staggering statistic. It perfectly highlights this profound fatigue we're all feeling from relentless algorithmic acceleration. You know, we've built these digital environments optimized purely for likes, speed, and endless engagement. And it's causing severe cognitive and emotional burnout for the exact people these systems were supposedly designed to serve. So, this brings us to a major crossroads in how we build our digital world. The traditional model we're all used to is engagement-centric user experience. It uses infinite scroll, artificial urgency, constant notifications, basically doing whatever it takes to capture and hold your attention. And frankly, it's exhausting. But a totally new paradigm is emerging called REST-positive UX. This flips the script. It focuses on perceptual pacing, giving users manageable chunks of info. It embeds natural pause points and actually respects the user's rhythm. It's built on the understanding that sometimes slowing down and allowing a user to just disengage is the absolute best way to serve them. Consider this perspective. Accessibility isn't just about can you use it, it's about can you use it without hurting yourself. I love that. It totally reframes the entire conversation around inclusive technology. Designing systems that don't exhaust the user, that don't manipulate their anxiety, and that don't penalize them for just needing a break, that isn't some premium luxury feature. In an age where you literally need digital access for healthcare, education, and banking, emotional safety is a fundamental survival need. Which leads us perfectly into Section 4, Designing for Emotional Access. If digital fatigue is the big problem we're facing, this is the deliberate structural solution. So what does this structural solution actually look like? Well, while functional accessibility makes sure a website has good color contrast and works with screen readers, which is obviously vital, emotional access goes a step further. It ensures the comprehension is achieved by accommodating diverse emotional tempos. It means the system actually meets you where you are, rather than forcing you to adapt to its high-speed, high-stress defaults. It's about providing comprehension through tone, rhythm, and safety. And this isn't just some pie-in-the-sky philosophical idea either. Major global research collectives are actively collaborating right now to make this a reality. They are pushing hard to make emotional access a vital, core part of digital equity and inclusion frameworks worldwide. They recognize a really important truth. If a user disengages from a public service platform, not because they're confused, but because the system just feels emotionally overwhelming, well, then that system has structurally failed. Okay, so how did developers actually build this? Researchers have outlined 4 core design commitments. First up, emotional legibility, making the tone and pace of the system adaptable to the user. Second is cognitive respect, designing for neurodivergent minds that might process info non-linearly or non-verbally. Third, creating a trustworthy atmosphere, meaning absolutely no dark patterns or manipulative nudges. And fourth, rhythmic flexibility, allowing users to slow down, pause, and explore it without being penalized. It's a complete top-to-bottom shift away from aggressive, goal-based behavior, moving towards true digital empathy. All right, let's pick the pace back up and zoom out to the macro level for Section 5, the global governance race. Because as these neurotechnologies and emotionally aware systems start scaling globally, governments are scrambling to catch up. Looking globally, we are seeing 3 very distinct philosophical approaches to regulating the brain-computer interface market today. China operates on a state-led safety-first model, complete with strict classifications for medical devices. The United States, on the other hand, utilizes a market-oriented approach. They focus on innovation-driven flexibility and use soft law guidelines so they don't stifle tech development. Meanwhile, the European Union takes a rights-oriented approach, focusing heavily on strict risk mitigation and ensuring mental privacy falls under sweeping frameworks like the GDPR. It is a totally fascinating, real-time experiment in trying to balance rapid technological innovation with basic human safety. We've traveled all the way from the inner workings of the human mind to global policy, which brings us to our final chapter, Section 6, Securing Our Neural Future. To make sure the global advancement of commercial and medical BCIs doesn't end up compromising our self-determination, experts are calling for immediate, coordinated action. We urgently need a life cycle regulatory mechanism that watches these technologies from the early research phase all the way to consumer application. We need unified, multidisciplinary ethical review standards that actually have some teeth to them. And above all else, we need the integration of neuro rights into international human rights frameworks. The architecture of the mind is sacred, and it requires the highest level of protection we can possibly offer. I want to leave you with this final thought. We are entering an era where our digital tools won't just know what we type, but how we feel, what we fear, and how we think. As technology learns to read your very feelings, how will you protect the quietest corners of your mind tomorrow? It's a huge question, and it's one we all need to be asking ourselves as we build the next generation of digital access. Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer, and remember, Keep questioning the systems you use every single day.